Okay, I'm just going to mute your mic as well, Ali. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into it. Unlocking your uniqueness. So essentially, one of the things that we are big on at Startup Sanctuary is building the business of you and giving people a means of crafting a business or a personal brand or building something around themselves, their own unique interests, and something that they can basically use their own skill sets and interests to craft something around. And the purpose of this presentation, I guess, is to kind of help people to think about that and get a better idea of some processes and some frameworks that they can use to maybe understand themselves better, but understand how they can leverage their own unique skill sets to build something as the basis of a business for them. So looking at building the business of you, essentially you are your own competitive advantage, and your uniqueness is your competitive advantage within the market. And creating a business at the intersection of where your unique skill sets overlap is where you are going to get the best return on investment for yourself, and give yourself a natural advantage in the marketplace. So we will touch on this a little bit later, but of course there's always going to be the market is the determining factor of whether your business is ultimately going to be a success or not, in figuring out the demand for that in the market. But you can give yourself the best opportunity to succeed by building a business that is most aligned with your unique skill sets and the overlapping areas where your unique skill sets and interests lie. So how do we think about that, and how do we actually start that process? So we're going to look at 3 different ideas here. 2 of them are frameworks, and then the last one is more of an idea about how you can actually leverage those frameworks to begin building something for yourself. So the first is the good to great model, developed by a guy called Jim Collins. And essentially what it gets at is getting to the heart of the work that one should be doing in the world. The next one is the Ikigai framework, which is a Japanese concept meaning a reason for being. And a lot of people might be familiar with that already. But again, it's another way to think about how you can best align yourself with the work that is going to best suit you and also meet that with market demand. And then ultimately what you're going to want to do is create a personal monopoly for yourself within the market and make yourself a one-of-a-kind brand and a one-of-a-kind business. So first up, we have the good to great model. So like I said, it was developed by a guy called Jim Collins, and it really plays at the intersection of 3 core functions. And those core functions are, what are you deeply passionate about? What can you be the best in the world at? And what drives your economic engine? So the diagram on the right here, obviously we have kind of 3 conjoining circles, and the intersection in the middle of all these is essentially where you want to be at in terms of, let's say, the business that you bring to the world or the way in which you shape the business you want to build. So we've got, what are you deeply passionate about? What is actually going to be the motivating factor for you to want to create something? And where do those passions align with you as an individual? What you can be the best at in the world. Again, this is going to look at actually what are your realistic goals, let's say, for what you want to actually create in the world. And is that going to be something that's feasible based on marrying that with your passions? And then the third one is, what drives your economic engine? And is marrying your passion with what you can be best at in the world actually going to give you a tangible result in terms of the market demand and the economics that are going to be at play for when you actually bring that to the market? But it's interesting to just think about the interlacing rings here, in that basically what you're doing is you're looking at these different functions of your life and you're thinking about merging them together. And that's ultimately what we're trying to get at with this presentation, is thinking about how many unique skill sets can you merge together to make your offering as bespoke as possible and give yourself that advantage in the market, because you are a unique individual and nobody else has the same life experiences as well as professional experience. So what you really want to do is try to really understand where your expertise lie and merge your own unique skill sets into that kind of bespoke offering that you can bring to the world to give you that advantage. The next model that we'll look at is Ikigai. And Ikigai is kind of, it's similar to the previous good to great model framework, but it gives us another concentric ring here, in that it brings together the intersection of 4 primary functions, in that you should do that which you love, that which you're good at, that which the world needs, and that which you can be paid for. So again, it's quite a similar model. It touches on these 4 areas, but it also harkens back to the fact that you do really need to be kind of producing something that there is going to end up being a market need for. And the idea, I guess, again, is that you're layering another unique skill set of your own onto that platform that's going to actually help to refine your offering. So we've all got a whole host of different interests, whether that is technology, whether it's all these subcategories of technology like artificial intelligence or digital transformation or marketing or all of these different areas. More than likely, you've got a whole host of unique skill sets within that domain of technology. But then if you also layer that on with something else, like your interest in, I don't know, let's say exercise, you're going to be having a skill set of exercise as well as a skill set of technology, and marrying those two might give you the idea to create a product, something like a Fitbit. So someone who's obviously well-versed in technology, as well as having an extremely high interest in fitness, is going to be more inclined to be able to create something at the intersection of those two interests. And I think that's a very simple example, but we can take on a lot more unique skill sets than just the mixture of two within the marketplace, because we've all got a whole plethora of different insights and unique skill sets. So layering 3, 4, 5, even 6 different unique areas that we have a skill set in or a unique insight in is going to help give us an advantage and create something more bespoke within the market. Again, the Ikigai model gives us a good insight into this, but also helps us be realistic about meeting the passion that we have and doing what we love, understanding what we're good at, also what we can be paid for, but ultimately what the world needs. And the intersection of these 4 concentric circles in the middle gives us our Ikigai and our reason for being. And finally, what this looks like is creating a personal monopoly for yourself and making yourself one of a kind. And the diagram we have here again is it's actually a torus field, but you can see that by layering on more and more concentric circles, you're giving yourself this very unique design, let's say, but it's also giving you the ability to build your personal monopoly by layering all of these unique skill sets and interests atop of one another. And ultimately, you are the unique intersection of all of your interests and skill sets. And the more layering that you do, the better ability that you have to harness your uniqueness and bring it to an infinitely scalable marketplace on the internet. And the beauty of the internet and creating an online style of business is that you're able to connect with other people across time and space where you wouldn't otherwise have the ability to do in your local market. Let's say if you're confined to a certain geographic area, a certain country, or a certain city, the internet allows you to obviously get a much larger reach and find other people who are resonating with your unique layer of skill sets. So it's interesting to think about the diagram on the right here and how the more layering that you do of these unique skill sets gives you this kind of torus design. And when you actually map that torus on a 3-dimensional plane, we get a torus field. And of course, the torus field is nature's mechanism for efficiency. And it kind of, again, harkens back to the fact that the more of our skill sets and unique insights that we can layer and harness to bring a unique offering into the world, the better chance we're giving ourselves for success, because the fact that the torus field is essentially like nature's mechanism for efficiency, and if we can naturally bring our own unique insights into the world through, let's say, an online business, we're creating an environment for maximum efficiency for ourselves and for our personal monopoly. And not only this, but like we mentioned, the network effect of the internet allow us to scale this uniqueness and this personal monopoly very efficiently. And I think it's interesting also to note how the network effects of sharing these ideas and sharing these unique insights on social platforms like Twitter, like Instagram, how that happens, and how the network effects of you harnessing your uniqueness come into play with these types of social platforms as well. So the real goal and the ultimate goal, I guess, is to identify the intersection of all of your unique skill sets and then start taking action. I think from personal experience, oftentimes we can often get hung up on trying to refine and keep improving in terms of all of the things that we're interested in and trying to learn new things, but without the application and without taking action on creating something at the intersection of all those unique insights, I think we can get stuck in learning mode or input mode without actually going into output and creating something based on the intersection of our uniqueness. So that's the real goal, and I think that's the high level version of unlocking your uniqueness, and maybe some frameworks there to think about in terms of leveraging the good to great model or the Ikigai model as a starting point for how you can think about what you want to bring into the world. But then also knowing that you've got a whole host of all these different unique insights and skill sets that can be layered, and they're kind of just waiting for you to start taking action on and creating something. And I think with the time that we're living in now, creating an online business or something in the digital space allows you to leverage the network effects of the internet to scale your uniqueness and build something for yourself. So whether that is a software as a service company, or whether it is a personal brand, or whether it's an e-commerce store, there's so many ways that you can do this for yourself and capture your own uniqueness and scale it online. It's just a matter of starting to take action and putting yourself to the test. So yeah, that's the high level version of unlocking your uniqueness. And I'll pause now to see if there's any questions.
Thanks, Gordon. I love that you brought all of this together. I was familiar before with the Ikigai, not so much with the good to great. I've never read the book, but I've heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I loved how you tied everything with the concentric circles in the end and the torus shape. I've never thought about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
However, this makes me think of when is it enough? When do you stop adding layers and skills and new interests to explore,
Yeah.
and you start kind of going deep and then applying? Because it feels, I don't know, at least for me, I have a lot of different interests.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different stuff that I want to do, and I'm a lifelong learner, and sometimes there's a struggle. Okay, I feel like maybe I don't know any of these things in a deep way, and I'm not an expert in any of them. When do I say, okay, this is my field that I want to be the expert in and be the best in the world, and stop exploring other stuff? I don't know if you have some thoughts about that in your
Yeah,
research or in your reading.
I think it's an interesting question, because I think for everyone it's going to be slightly different, but also I think like the last line on the last slide there kind of captures what the big lesson here that I had to learn, and that was like to start taking action, because the very process of taking action helps you to actually refine where your strengths are, especially in terms of where you're going to meet the market demand. And like, it's something that I struggled with before when I tried to start other businesses and side projects, where I would build something and people would not be interested in it. And I think you can only learn so much by continuing to take in information. But without the application of that, it's tough to really figure out, firstly, where exactly should I be focusing my efforts on? And secondly, where is that going to meet the market demand? Because ultimately the market is going to decide, where you meet in terms of demand and supply with what you want to create. But to come back to like, when should you start? It's very tough, because like, I love learning things as well, Ali, but I think it comes to a point where you have to be realistic with yourself and say, okay, I'm going to actually start putting into practice everything I've learned, and give myself permission to say, okay, it's not going to be perfect from the start. And thinking realistically, anyone who's built anything of great success has gone through the process of years of work and experience and building and attempting something to actually bring it to the point where it's even come into your frame of reference as a human being. Because the amount of work and effort that goes into something before it's even, let's say, at a scale where it comes into the awareness of, let's say, a large group of people, there's just so much work that has gone into something to get to that point. So I think starting to take action is the number one takeaway for that. When should you do that? As soon as possible is my answer, having learned it the hard way, I think. Because you really don't know your own limits and your own biggest strengths until you start taking action, I feel. Does that make sense?
Beautifully said. Yeah, beautifully said, Gordon. Thank you for your talk. I loved it. Thanks.
No worries. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap up the recording here now, but thanks very much for joining, Ali. And I look forward to seeing what you're building in the future as well.
I will be sharing, definitely. Yes.